All right, good morning. Today is Saturday, February 3rd, 2024. This is Ask Cindy, the Practice Engagement Program winter webinar. So the response to this was overwhelming with the emails that we sent out asking you to submit questions. We did do a cutoff of a couple days ago because I had to research some of your questions. And so you can email any previously submitted questions that are not answered today to cindy@pinnaclepa.com. Give me 72 hours or so to get back to you. But as you will see over the next 2 to 3 hours, I tried my best to answer as many questions as possible, but they just kept coming. So 2024 is in full swing. So I'm going to say let it be a year filled with maintaining or regaining control of our practices, businesses, and achieving a healthier work-life balance. As the landscape of healthcare continues to change, I want you to do a few things. Number one, keep an open mind. Number two, take necessary and sometimes painful steps towards self and practice improvement. Number three, be aware of what is going on around you, but don't make decisions based solely, no pun intended, on what everyone else is doing. And think, no matter where you are in your practice, if you just opened or you've been there for 20 years, where do you want to be 5 years from now? So I want to give a special thank you to our sponsors who make it possible for Pinnacle Practices to attend these informational and convenient virtual webinars for free. If you're not a practice engagement program member or active Pinnacle practice, you had to pay for this. But once you're logged in as a member, I want you to click preferred pricing. There's a complete list of vendors offering special pricing, discounts, and extras to members. So our sponsors for today: Bacco Diagnostics, Podiatry Content Connection, Keen Insurance, part of the Hilb Group, Modern Practice Solutions, Elite Orthopedics, Footsteps Medical Grade Orthotics, Zimmer Medicine Systems, Swift Microwave Therapy, Pay Entry, Phoenix Technologies, and Kevin Root Medical. Now let's get to the question and answer portion of our webinar. I have divided it into some general topics. Okay, there'll be some overlap, but I think this way it'll allow us to upload individual presentations to the library for more user-friendly experience. So to assist with the first portion of our program, which is malpractice related questions, we are joined by John Cordham. He's a healthcare practice consultant with Keen Insurance Group. For many of you, John has taken over from your previous Keen contact, which was Ben Wise. So John, I'm going to have you unmute yourself so you can do this part. And then when you just tell me next slide. So thank you, John, for joining. I know he has one of his kids' birthdays is today, so there's like a little bit of a birthday party going on in the background. So I want to thank you for taking time away from your family to join us here and answer some of the questions that were submitted. So I'm going to let you take over and then just tell me next slide when you're ready.
Perfect. Thank you very much for allowing me to be here, and this is exciting. So I'll get started right away. What happens when you go from surgical exposure to non-surgical exposure? How does it affect my coverage and/or rate? Next slide. You will need to let the carrier know when you want the surgical exposure to end and move to a non-surgical classification. You will not see much of a savings up front. The reason for this is the exposure is still attached to the physician. The underwriter will start to back down the premium each year moving forward. Eventually, you will see a savings, but it will take a few years from when you requested to end the surgical exposure.
So this
Next
is really,
slide.
this is really important because I did have since the pandemic started, I did have quite a few doctors that retired. And so this was like we were building checklists of like who to tell, what to do, how to make sure you're covered. So these things are really important if you're thinking about getting close to either retirement or just giving up surgery, because as we know, surgery doesn't pay anymore. So,
Yeah, so and it is true, and everybody thinks they should save up front, the second that they remove that surgical exposure, and it just doesn't work that way in the insurance world.
right,
They kind of back it down because the exposure is still attached to you at that point.
right, right. Okay.
Okay, so how does tail coverage work? Next slide. When a claims made policy is canceled, it is possible to purchase an extended report-in period endorsement or tail coverage. The tail coverage extends the time that alleged incidents may be reported on a claims made policy. A tail offers coverage for incidents that happen while the claims made policy is effective, but are reported after the policy has expired. Depending on the insurance company, if you meet certain requirements, tail coverage may be offered for free. If the requirements have not been met, the claims made policy may come with the option to purchase tail coverage for a specified period, such as 1, 3, or 5 years, and also unlimited amount of time. The industry standard for a tail amount is 200% or 2 times your expiring premium. Next
So
slide.
this is important for practices that doctors I work with that worked in another practice and then went out on their own. They do need tail coverage, and some, I think, well, at least through PICA, a lot of times it ends up not costing them anything for that tail coverage, but it is something that you do need to look into if you're changing, either working for one practice and working for another, or leaving and going out on your own, even if you're not going to be practicing right away because your insurance contracts aren't done or whatever, you still need tail coverage.
Correct. And to add to that, basically what I find is most doctors, when they start out of school or their first job, they do not realize that they can negotiate to have the group that they're working for pay for their tail when they leave or pay for half their tail when they leave. And most physicians, this is a new thing when they leave their first job. And then there's the sticker shock of having to pay a tail.
Right.
Um, and then if they also go out on their own and start a solo policy, a lot of times we can have the carrier pick up their prior acts with the group so they wouldn't need to purchase a tail. So there's a lot of ways to get around purchasing a tail. We just need, that's where we come in and we can help them through that process.
Yep.
Okay, so what is the difference between a claims made versus occurrence policy? An occurrence policy offers coverage for claims that occur while the policy is active, even if the policy has expired or been canceled. If the incident occurred while the policy was in force, coverage is available with an occurrence policy. It does not matter when the claim is reported. It could be reported when the policy is active or after the policy expires. An occurrence policy has a tail built in each year. The premium is rated at a mature rate, so the premium is higher for the first 5 years. A claims made policy offers coverage for claims that occur and are reported while the policy is in force. Once the policy expires, coverage expires. When a claims made policy is canceled, it is possible to purchase the extended reporting period endorsement or tail coverage. Tail coverage extends the time alleged incidents may be reported on a claims made policy. A tail offers coverage for incidents that happen while a claims made policy is effective, but are reported after the policy has expired. So which policy form is better? The coverage afforded by both policy forms is identical. The difference comes down to when you can report a claim. The occurrence form gives you more flexibility, whether the claim is reported when you are practicing or after you retire and cancel the policy, you receive coverage. And just to add to that, the occurrence policy is nice. It is more expensive. That said, they're also hard to find. A lot of insurance companies won't even offer an occurrence policy. So it depends on what part of the country you're in and what insurance company you're with. Next slide. Should I report every incident that I think might be a problem, and will this affect my rate? Yes, carriers suggest reporting all incidents. This will make sure that the carrier is on the hook for any claim that might arise from the incident. Carriers also strongly believe that with their help, they can get out in front of an incident and stop it from becoming a claim. Incidents do not affect coverage and only affect the policyholder's rate if an incident becomes a claim or a suit.
And over the years, I have had many doctors kind of call me, email me, text me, freaking out about a patient who threatened to sue, who wrote something that was, suggestive of, going after them legally in a Google review, over things that are like they owed a balance and they didn't know they owed a balance, or like, oh, they didn't know that they weren't supposed to go and to the grocery store and do grocery shopping an hour after surgery,
Exactly.
things like that. And I always say to the doctor, call your malpractice company because if you don't and then something comes of it, it makes you look like you did something wrong by not getting out in front of it. So you're and the argument is, well, isn't my premium going to go up? And I say only if it becomes something, but better to report it before a patient does anything. One
Yeah,
of the patients
I
was,
agree. And these carriers do, I mean, they're there to protect the physician. If they wouldn't be in business for 50, 75 years if they weren't protecting their doctors. And so they get out in front of these things and they have the expertise. They know how to make things go away.
right.
So and, once something goes away, it's not a claim, it's not a suit. So it makes sense to get out in front of it.
Right. Oh, and just on another note, it's not a question that was submitted, but it's something that I do remind my doctors of often, is that if you have a big chart audit situation, any kind of audit situation, that's something more than, just submit a few chart notes here or there. You have audit defense built in to your malpractice policy, like you pay for that, and they provide you with an attorney and a compliance expert, and they help you through the whole process. So don't try to go at audits alone. Like you already pay for that service, so utilize it.
100%. Yes, utilize the carrier. And they offer, I mean, carriers have, a wealth of knowledge and a ways to get things done. So, yes, call us or call them and we can help you through that process.
Right.
Okay. In a medical malpractice claim, can a physician be considered negligent or failure to diagnose?
Or failure to diagnose. So that's
Yes, a patient must prove three basic elements to bring a viable medical malpractice claim. The physician-patient relationship existed. The physician's error arose to the level of negligence, and the patient suffered harm due to the negligence.
so I just put a side note here. This was submitted as part of questions related to procedures, biopsying patients, things like that. So I thought since it was malpractice related, I'd put it in here, but we're going to go over this, I think, in the next category. But podiatrists don't perform nearly as many diagnostic tests, specifically biopsies, as they should. No one ever sued a doctor for finding out that the little spot on their foot, was some kind of malignant melanoma, and they, saved their life. They would sue if the opposite happened, and they said, "Oh, it's fine. Just keep an eye on it." And they don't do anything about it. So biopsies should be performed for definitive diagnoses, even if the answer is it's fine, it's nothing. Have the patient sign a biopsy refusal form if you suggest performing one and they decline. So that's available in my library. So if you say, like you really shouldn't have a dark colored pigmentation on the bottom of your foot, I think we should biopsy it and find out what it is, just to be on the safe side. And the patient says, well, I'm too afraid, I'm too nervous, I don't want to know. Okay, that's fine, but we're going to have you sign something stating that we recommended it. The doctor recommended it to you and you said no. So don't come after us after that. Okay. So for malpractice related questions and to explore your Pinnacle exclusive PICA discount, that's through Keen Insurance and the Hill Group, contact John Cordum. He is your healthcare practice consultant. The office number is 800-966-7731. His direct line is 314-616-8025, or you can email him, John, JOHN.Cordum, KORTUM, at keengroup.com. And this I'll put up John's information again later on in the webinar. But John, thank you again for joining us. Happy birthday to your son.
Mhm.
And
Thank you.
And people will be in touch or they'll contact me and I'll put them in touch with you if they have any questions.
Great. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you.
Hmm.
Okay, so I'm going to stop the recording.